Hey guys, King of Charmanders here. Today I bring to you the best Espinas weapons guide. The new fire and poison meta. As we analyze the new boss monster of Season 7, it actually carries either fire or poison for its elemental / status weapons, which is really cool. And the interesting thing is that Espinas weapons also carry positive affinity. So yay, something also that carries positive affinity. Can also work with critical elements, etc. But let's get started. First, we're going to kick off with a list of Espinas weapons. Here's a note. These are weapon names when you upgrade them. So, for sword and shield, you have the Rosen Messer. For the hammer, you have the Rosen Hammer. Oh, so complicated. For the great sword, you have the Rosen Brett. For the long sword, you have the Rosen Fader. For the dual blades, you have the Rosen Zahn. For the switchcacks, you have the Rosen Akanta. For the lance, you have the Rosen Ranza. For the gun lance, you have the Rosen Canone. For the hunting horn, you have the Rosen Gitarre. I think this is German, so yeah, I suck at German, so please forgive me for my pronunciation. For the bow, you have the Rosen Bogen. For the light bowgun, you have the Rosen Gewer. And for the heavy bowgun, you have the Rosen Kugel. Now that you know their names, what is their weapons forward stats? Well, here they are. For the forward stats, you have either, again, they're either fire or poison. For fire, your base raw attack is going to be 342 with a base elemental attack of 230 and a base positive affinity of 10%. Along with poison, you have a base raw attack of 473, a base status attack of 183, and a base affinity of positive 10%. As you maxed out, the Espinas weapons will equal the raw and elemental for fire, and raw will be high for poison. As here are their forge requirements for the Espinas weapons. You need 8 Monster Bow Mediums, which are rarity 2, 4 Espinas Scales, which are rarity 1, 2 Espinas Horns, which are rarity 3, 2 Espinas Prime Scales, which are rarity 4, and in addition, you need 1500 Zenny. And if you want to max out the Espinas weapons, well, here's their max stats. They're gonna either be fire or poison, with fire's max raw attack being 1434, and its max elemental attack is also 1434, with a max affinity of positive 20%. For poison, the max raw attack is 2103, with the max status attack being 294, and the max affinity is positive 20%. As you max out, the Espinas weapons are the equivalent of Fulgur Anjanath in terms of fire, and they have high raw damage and high crit for poison. So, high raw damage, and again, high critical, that positive crit for poison. However, they also come at a cost. So you want to max these out. The thing is, Espinas weapons have their own unique rarity 6, the Espinas Plate. In addition, you'll need 25 weapon refining parts and 423,500 Zenny. You'll also need materials from the OG Rathalos. So before you max out, again, you need to hunt Rathalos. And from personal experience, if you're doubling your rarity 6, this can take you about 500 plus Espinas or less if you're lucky, as someone with 2 max boss weapons. I have max Zinogre as well as max Mizusune light bowgun. Because of that, I have a lot of experience on what it takes to 10-5 a boss mob weapon. And here is the thing you probably all skipped to because you know what, we're looking at the data here. Here's Espinas monster melee types damage comparison. So here we take a look at the top fire and poison types as of Espinas' release. It's fire and poison, so we're gonna look at both. As you see per the data, Silver Rathalos is the strongest per data, along with 10% more positive crit. You think 20% is good? Well, 30% is even better. Along with that, I'm not even factoring the fact that critical element +2 is here for Silver Rathalos. And with +2s, speaking of +2s, Gold Rothian is the strongest for poison damage-wise because it has poison exploit too. But Espinas has higher base max stats. Literally just 50 points. It has 50 more points. That's it. Other than that, Gold Rothian is the gold standard, due to the best balance of having, well, again, poison exploit along with all its other stats. As far as inflicting poison though, if we're talking about that, Chameleos would be best due to the best balance of high raw plus high poison value. If you notice and you look at these things together, you're not taking in the poison value. If we looked at and we took that in along with this, with damage, the highest value combined would actually be Chameleos with all of this. However, again, if we're talking about damage-wise, inflicting poison, Chameleos. Damage-wise, Gold Rothian. Despite this, don't put away Espinas though, because Espinas does still have some great stats per data. Plus 20% crit, the equivalent of Fulgur Anjanath. It's still good. Not the best, but it's still pretty dang good. Next up, we have the Espinas monster types bowgun damage comparison. So, yay, we have the light bowgun and the heavy bowgun. So we're going to look at all the top fire monster bowgun types as of Espinas' release, because Espinas only has fire elemental bowguns. As you see for the light bowgun and heavy bowgun, the data is relatively the same. However, for light bowgun, just like we talked with melee weapons, Silver Rathalos is the best due to critical element and the 10% more affinity. Along with that, the heavy bowgun for Espinas, though, would actually be the best. Yes, you don't have a Silver Rathalos heavy bowgun, but you do have a heavy bowgun for Espinas, where it would actually be the best. For its fact, again, Silver Rathalos does not have a heavy bowgun, but it has a great ammo set, and we're going to take a look at that in a bit. However, we still have one more ranged weapon type to go after, and that is the bow. The meta of all metas, of course, the bow is the king to look at because we need, yeah, it's the bow. And here we take a look at all the top fire types as of Espinas' release. And as we see per the data, Silver Rathalos is the strongest, of course. And along with that, Espinas unfortunately is not a super bow. There's no charge 3 to damage 4 mechanic, so Silver Rathalos beats it by a mile. It's not a fire super bow, unfortunately. So Silver Rathalos, for multiple reasons, is the strongest. Moving on, remember I told you we'd look at all that ammo? Well, here's the Espinas ranged weapon type ammo comparisons. So we're going to look at all the ammo sets for the light and heavy bowguns as well as the bow for Espinas. And this is what makes it really interesting. The light bowgun has spread and paralysis ammo, which is very interesting because paralysis ammo, oh boy. However, the thing about it is Silver Rathalos is still the best with its ammo set plus its poison and critical element. It's poison with anything plus critical element is pretty nuts, so it's going to do that fire plus poison damage, and it's pretty insane. However, the thing is, like I mentioned, the heavy bowgun, it's worth looking at. It has spread and paralysis ammo as well. But because we don't have a Silver Rathalos head bowgun, like I mentioned before, it beats out Glavenus due to its ability to inflict paralysis. Not overall damage-wise, but when you make a monster a sitting duck, guess what? Paralysis ammo at 5 bullets to be it is really dang good. And then you just spread and then slicing fire ammo the thing to death. And last but not least, we have the bow. And unfortunately, as mentioned before, Espinas bow does not have the charge 3 to damage 4 mechanic, so Silver Rathalos is still the best fire bow. Silver Rathalos has spread level 4 at charge level 3, making it the best fire bowgun. I mean, not fire bowgun, the best fire bow, and overall the best fire weapon in the game if we're talking about fire elemental. Next up, we have the Espinas Hunting Horn. Yay, the newest weapon type as of recent. We have to take a look at the Espinas Hunting Horn. And it doesn't really have the greatest melody set. You have water resistance up, knockbacks back, and affinity up. That's a pretty terrible hunting horn. Chameleos, however, would technically be better as it has status sneak attack 2 and a better melody set. Barely better, but at least defense up. As much as I hate the thing, it actually applies to everything rather than water resistance up. Wind pressure is pretty much the equivalent to knockbacks just because wind pressure from monsters. And element value up, again, the equivalent of affinity. Affinity, you boost your affinity so it works well with Espinas' boost, but however, depending on who you have on your team, element value up is really dang good. So, Hunting Horn for Espinas, not the best. Might be worth looking into if you don't have a poison one, but yes, here it is. Moving on, we have the Espinas weapon skill. Unfortunately, Espinas weapons have special part breaker +2 as their weapon skill. If you don't know what it does, basically, it increases the accumulated damage when you use special skills, and it's going to fill your special gauge. Here's the problem though, you need your special skill active. It's a bad skill. If you wanted to run something that breaks parts, you might as well just run Part Breaker. The only exception to special Part Breaker is probably the dual blades just because of how Demon Blade Dance works. But you have to break parts and you can't exactly target and aim at things all the time. So yeah, because the monster's going to move, etc. So why am I going to need my special to break parts when I could just have Part Breaker 5? You might as well just use Part Breaker 5 or something like that. And the thing is, Espinas weapon stats still make up for it unless it's the meta of fire and poison. So the stats do make up for the fact that it has a really bad skill. It's not completely useless, but it's definitely not the best. As Silver Rathalos and Gold Rathian will clearly beat out Espinas weapons unless there is no weapon type for them. For example, like Silver Rathalos does not have a heavy bowgun. This is because of the Silver Rathalos' +2 critical element and Gold Rathian's +2 poison element. Damage takes precedence over anything else. Even for breaking rarity 6 parts, you can, if you're good enough at aiming, like with the bow, etc., or targeting, you don't need Part Breaker to break a rarity 6. It makes it easier. But at the same time, You make it easier to break parts at the sacrifice of it dealing more damage. The goal is to slay the monster. Unless you are not trying to take out a mass horde of monsters for efficiency wise, then yeah, Part Breaker is good. But Special Part Breaker, it's basically like a worse version of Part Breaker, if you want to look at it that way. Last but not least, we have some miscellaneous things. I did not forget about the Gun Lance, Switch Axe, and the Charge Blade. Here's the files. As Espinas Gun Lance is wide, making it pretty bad for Gun Lance users. It's just ammo boost, that's it. Not really great. Doesn't do your Worm Stake Shot. Doesn't increase full burst like normal. You can't tap, hold, and charge like for Long Shell. So wide is pretty dang bad. For the Espinas Switch Axe, it has the standard power element file for fire, so it's good. So good, again, because fire, you boost your elements with your power element files. You boost because you're doing fire damage, so standard. And it's standard as well for the Espinas Charge Blade, which has impact file, which the rest of the poison charge blades have, so it can stun. Nothing special here. Target head, fire said files, and give chance to stun. That's what Espinas Charge Blade does. So, again, outside the Gun Lance, the other two are pretty dang good. And this brings us to the ultimate question, the overall analysis for Espinas weapons. The weapons overall are very powerful, but it won't beat out the existing meta unless there is no weapon type for it. Example, Silver Rathalos. We don't have a Silver Rathalos heavy bowgun, so look at Espinas. Compare and contrast over there, and you see that Espinas weapons do have all current weapon types out there. So unless poison and fire, the big meta bombs for that one, the big meta bosses for those, they don't have a weapon type. Here you go, Espinas is great. If you already have a max fire and are poison weapon, it's not worth investing into the Espinas weapons. The difference will be meager, it's a boss mob, and it's hard to max it out. Again, I have 2 max boss weapons. I can tell you right now, it's hard. Not really worth busting your bacon if you already have something that's already worth it. However, Espinas' bowguns do have paralysis ammo, making them a great combo with paralysis exploit. The heavy bowgun as of right now is the strongest fire heavy bowgun. And the most interesting weapon here, again, Espinas heavy bowgun. So you take all the factors into consideration, the heavy bowgun, if you're a heavy bowgun enthusiast, that's definitely worth looking into. Hopefully this video helps you decide what Espinas weapon you want to build. Espinas weapons are powerful, however, again, not worth replacing your current / strongest fire / poison builds. I have a maxed out Chameleos bow. I have a max Silver Rathalos bow. In terms of melee, critical element, again, is still +2. Silver Rathalos is still goated. Poison, it's Gold Rothian. So, again, unless it doesn't have a weapon type for those 2 rare species, or for Chameleos in general, you take a look at everything. Espinas is just a nice to have if you don't have the other things I mentioned. With that being said, please do me a huge favor, like, subscribe, and comment for the YouTube algorithm. I hope y'all excited for Season 7. Espinas is definitely powerful, and again, if you don't have the top tier meta, this is something that's definitely worth looking after if you want to go after it. Good luck on your grinds. Hopefully y'all are having fun for Season 7. Can't wait for more content to come out in the future, and I will see y'all on the next video.